Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here, and today I've got two different stage pianos with me. I've got the Roland FP10 and the Casio Privia PX-S1000. Both of these are entry-level pianos. Seems like a lot of manufacturers these days are focusing on the entry-level piano market, and it's really cool because these entry-level pianos have key actions and some features that they weren't available to you like 10 years ago. So as far as key actions, these rival what you had available years ago. Both of these came out earlier this year, January 2019, and they were announced at NAMM, but both of these are killer. So for the price, the Roland is $499 US, and the Casio is $599 US. The Casio's won a bunch of awards and all that kind of stuff. Best in Show at NAMM. It's got a Key Buy Award. But this is new. It's very innovative. It's a whole different design. Whereas the FP10 is more of a scaled down version of Roland's FP30. Either way, you can't lose with either of these. So let's go over these and find out what's what with these. Now, they're both 88 key hammer action. They're graded, they're weighted. The Roland has triple sensors, and Casio has this new technology, which is smart scaled hammer action. And to a certain extent, the smart scaled hammer action kind of is the more advanced of the two, and you get good results either way. The Roland has this ivory touch to it. Casio has this simulated ivory and ebony. And as far as the pianos, Roland has their Supernatural piano. I'm sure you've heard of that. It's more of a scaled down version of what is available in their Supernatural of the more expensive pianos, but still it is Supernatural and it sounds great. And the Casio has the Hamburg piano, so that also sounds great. So here's a little bit of samples of both. Let's start out with the Casio. And the same thing with the Roland. Okay, let's try a couple other things. The Casio. And the Roland. Okay, now as far as weight, they're both super light. The Roland is 27.3 pounds, or about 12.4 kilograms. And the Casio, 24.6 pounds, 11.2 kilograms. You cannot beat that on either of these. To have the kind of key action that you have on these, for that kind of weight, is just unreal. But this is beginning to become the norm nowadays, so that's a good thing. Now the Casio boasts that it's the slimmest keyboard in the world for an 88 key hammer action. So if you're thinking about the Studio Logic Numa Compact, that doesn't count. It's not hammer action, and it's not even full-size piano keys. So as far as full-size piano keys hammer action, it is the slimmest in the world, but it's definitely not the shortest. As far as length is concerned, the Roland is actually 50.5 inches wide, whereas the Casio is 52 inches wide. So there's an 1.5 inch difference there. And as far as depth, the Roland is 10.16 inches as opposed to Casio 9.13. And as far as height, they're both pretty good. The Roland is 5.5 inches high, and this one is only 4 inches high. So there you have it. The Roland beats the Casio in terms of length. the Casio beats the Roland in terms of everything else. Now, the Roland comes with 15 instrument sounds. The Casio has 18 instrument sounds, 3 more. But if you use Roland's app, the Piano Partner 2, it gives you 20 more sounds. So it's almost like buying the next step up, the Roland FP30, which has 20 more sounds than this. And you can get those with this for free with the Piano Partner 2 app that Roland puts out. 17 preset songs to the Roland, 60 preset songs to the Casio. Now, here's a big difference right here. The Roland has 96 note polyphony, which is good for a beginner. That'll get you by. It's even good for intermediate and maybe even advanced. It's definitely going to do the job for you. But the Casio has 192 note polyphony. So you really don't have to worry about note stealing or anything like that with the Casio. Twice as much the polyphony. And as far as built-in speakers, they both have that. The Roland has 12 watts worth of speaker power, 6 watts on each side. And the Casio has 16 watts of power, 8 on each side. Now, as far as the speakers, the Roland speakers are facing down, whereas the Casio speakers are facing the back or to the audience. Now, as far as headphone jacks, all jacks and everything on the Roland are on the back. It has one headphone jack, which is basically its main audio output. So if you want to hook this up to an amp or a mixer or an audio interface, you're going to need some kind of converter. This is a 1/8 inch TRS stereo jack here. If you want to hook it up to one of those other things, you'll need an adapter cable that breaks it up into a left and right 1/4 inch. And those are the professional jacks that are used in pro industry. But a lot of speakers today or amplifiers will take an 1/8 inch stereo input. So you can just go ahead and use the same kind of cable that you would use to connect your smartphone from the smartphone to your car stereo. The Casio has 2 headphone jacks, and they're both in the front where they should be because it's easier to get to. And they each have like this twin or piano mode where piano student and teacher can sit there, and you have 2 equal pianos of 44 notes each, which is really a cool thing to have if you're a teacher or a student. But when you have the Casio, teacher and student have their own pair of headphones. Not the case with the Roland, since there's only one output, and that is it. They both come with a cheap damper pedal, which is basically an on-off switch that's on the floor that you use your foot with. I highly recommend that you upgrade to a better piano damper pedal. And those are not expensive. You can pick those up at Guitar Center for about $20 or so. Both of these have the capability of doing half damper pedal. So with the Roland, it comes with the DP2 cheap little switch. You can upgrade that to Roland's DP10, and now you have not only a much better piano pedal for damping, but it also does half damping. And as far as the Casio, you can upgrade to their triple pedal, which also supports half damping, but it also has the other pedals as well, the sostenuto and the soft pedal. As far as recording yourself, the Roland doesn't have any way of recording yourself except with their app. You can use their Piano Partner 2 app, and that will record you, but you don't have a way of exporting that to any place. So you're kind of limited with that. The Casio has a built-in 2-track MIDI recorder, which is a cool thing to have. Now, they both have sympathetic string, damper, and key-off resonance. The Casio also has key on and off action noise and damper noise adjustable. Now, Bluetooth. They each have Bluetooth, except Roland depends on what region or what country you're in. I'm in the United States, so I have Bluetooth with the Roland. Some countries, they don't have Bluetooth in their Roland FP10. It probably has something to do with their FCC equivalent with laws or whatever it is. So if you're not in the United States, you might want to check with your Roland dealer to find out if the FP10 in your country has Bluetooth. If it does, there's big differences between the two. The Casio has Bluetooth, and it's Bluetooth audio. So if you have another device like an MP3 player or your phone with tunes on it or anything like that, you can broadcast it via Bluetooth to here, and it'll play through the speakers that are built in. It doesn't have Bluetooth MIDI. In order to do that, you have to actually run a cable from the keyboard to their app, their Cordana Play for piano, an actual cable, so that it can communicate back and forth as far as MIDI is concerned. With the Roland, their Bluetooth app supports MIDI, but not audio. So with MIDI support, you don't need a cable when you're using Bluetooth on their app. And because it supports MIDI over Bluetooth, it'll work with a whole bunch of other apps out there that are designed to be used with a piano like this with MIDI. Now, the nice thing about the FP10 is if you're using their Piano Partner 2 app, you get 20 more instrument sounds here. So you basically have upgraded this to an FP30, which is $200 more than the FP10, which gives you 35 different instrument sounds. This is only 15, but when you're using that app, you bring it up to the 35, just like you do on the FP30. So that's pretty much a good deal over there. And what's cool about the Cordana app is you've got these falling bars so that you can learn how to play a song. I mean, you also have the music notation, and actually if you're using their triple pedal, you can use the left pedal to switch pages. So that's pretty cool too. You can't do that on the Roland. You can do that with the FP30, but not the FP10. But those falling bars are really cool. It's like a whole new app called Synthesia, which teaches you how to play with these falling bars. That is so cool. So that's a big plus right there for Casio. Now, as far as switches and that kind of thing, the Roland has 4 physical switches, and the rest of the 88 keys also act as switches. So what you have is a power on and off, and then you have a volume lower and a volume higher. So between the two of those, you can adjust your volume, making it lower or higher. Just hold it down until you get to the volume that you like. And a function button. So everything that's done on the Roland is you hold down the function button and press one of the 88 keys. They're all assigned to something unique. And with the Casio, again, for these entry-level pianos, you don't need a screen, so it's always going to be some kind of button that you hold down and you hit a particular key to get to the function that you want. So with Roland, it's always the function button and hit a key. With the Casio, you'll see there's 7 physical, there's switches, but they're not physical like these are. You press them, you hear a click, all that. These are touch sensitive, which is really cool. So they don't even make a noise. You barely have to touch it. Anyway, they have, besides the function, they have a sound mode, metronome, recorder, player, and a grand piano, an electric piano switch. So you can hold down the grand piano switch while you press one of the 88 keys to get to a certain function that you want to get to. Same thing with the electric piano, hold that down, hit one of the keys, or even with the sound button, hold that down, hit one of the keys, or the function button, hold that down, hit one of the keys. So there's a lot more choices with these keys than you have with the Roland. The nice thing about the Roland is the most popular things that you would use that function and key switch combination for, they're all written down here on the front panel right here so that you can see it. So with the 15 different instruments that you have, you know that you have this piano, and if you want a different kind of piano, and here's a different piano yet, alright, and if you want electric piano, so it's the same idea here, but it's not labeled. Also, the Roland has the metronome functions labeled here because a lot of people, especially beginners, are going to be using the metronome. So without having to crack open the manual to see what key combination does what, changing instruments and setting up your metronome is all handled right here. It's written down for you so you don't have to guess. Now what Casio does, since they have this brand new design with this high luster and everything, it wouldn't look right to have something written here. So instead what they did is if you hold down the grand piano key, that's what you get. And if you do the next one, that's what you get. These are 4 different pianos. Then we go to the electric piano. So everything that you want, you get a sample of it. So if I'm holding this down, I've got a nice organ over here. So anyway, they're both good. They both have some good sounds to them. And these are perfect for beginners. And not only that, because the key action on each one of these is so good, you can actually use this as a controller. So if you're a serious musician and you just need something else for a controller for virtual pianos running on your computer, something like Ivory or Ravenscroft or Piano Jack, or any one of those. Either one of these would be a good choice. Now, let's talk about the keys because they're both good. And a pianist is probably going to like one of these better than the other. Now, I like them both. But here's the difference. With the Casio, well, let me just go back to a piano here. And here I can just hit this and I'm back in the piano. What I like about the Roland is as you play into the keys closer to the fall board, on any piano, the farther or the closer you get to the fall board, it's going to require more pressure to hit the key. And think of it, think of a seesaw, all right? You've got wood here balanced on a fulcrum. The closer you get to this, the harder it's going to be to press it down. And the farther you get from that center point, the easier it is to press that wood down. And it's the same thing here. So when you get to the pivot point, even though it's not on a seesaw type of thing, the closer you get to the pivot point, the more pressure is going to take to put that key down. Now, it's easier in the Roland mean, you still need a little bit more pressure, not much. It's easier to play into the keys on the Roland. And as far as the Casio, it's still easier than a lot of other pianos, but you feel it towards that last quarter inch. You're going to have to give it slightly more pressure on this than you would on the Roland. Now, if you don't like that at all and you really want it more like an acoustic grand piano where it's effortless to play towards the fallboard, you can go ahead and spend about $3,000 and get a Kawai MP11 SE, or about $2,000 and get a Kawai VPC1. So it's all about how much you're willing to spend as far as being able to get the perfect key action. But for $499 and for $599, you just can't beat it. Even though you're pressing just a tiny bit harder on the Casio and even less harder on the Roland than you are on the Casio, it's still really, really good. I am impressed with what each of these companies have done. And they both have 5 sensitivity levels, so if you like to play hard or you like to play soft, they've got a sensitivity level for you. Each one of them have 5 sensitivity levels. They have like light and lighter, and then they have medium and hard and harder. Each one of these has that. And that's probably the first thing you should do when you try these out at the store, because whatever this level is set to may not be perfect for you. So a lot of people walk up to a keyboard at the store and they say, oh, this is too heavy or it's too light. Almost all digital pianos have a setting where you can change that. So talk to your salesperson when you go to the store and get that setting changed to what you like, light or heavy. Then you can truly test out the piano. Now they both come with music holders, they come with AC adapters, and they come with those cheap damper pedals. Now let's talk about the back panel. On the Roland, it's very limited. You've got DC power in, you've got USB A and B, and don't let the presence of USB A deceive you. It's not usable. The only thing they use that USB A connection for is so that they have an update. You throw that on your USB thumb drive, you put that in there, and that's how they do their updates. Other than that, you can't use a USB A for anything else. Then they have an 1/8 inch TRS stereo output, which is the only output they have. That you're going to use either for headphones or with an adapter cable to plug into your mixer or your audio interface or a PA. And they have a 1/4 inch damper jack input. Now the Casio has a USB-B, which is not shown, and you would use that to connect to your computer just like you would on the Roland. They both have the USB-Bs, and you use that to connect to your PC or your laptop so that you can interface it with your DAW or virtual pianos or soft synths or whatever you want to. Okay, and I'm not showing that on the back panel here, so because I'm showing a picture of everything else. Right. Then you have the 1/4 inch damper jack, and then you have a proprietary triple pedal jack. And that's what's used to connect the optional triple pedal from Casio to your keyboard. Then they have an 1/8 inch TRS stereo audio input. And again, you can use that with an MP3 player, an iPod, or anything else like that. Then you have separate left and right 1/4 inch TS line outputs. And that's the standard in the industry to use this to hook up to either PAs or your mixer or your audio interface. And then you have the power input, your DC power in. And then on the front panel you have 2 1/8 inch stereo headphone jacks. So the conclusions for each of these, I think the Roland wins as far as Bluetooth connections because it has MIDI over Bluetooth. And I wish they had that with the Casio, but they don't. And the Casio wins for battery operation. This is so cool. You can take this with you anywhere in the world and you've got a piano. But besides from the novelty of that, it also acts as a UPS, or uninterruptible power supply. So if you lose the power and you're playing this somewhere, the batteries immediately kick in, and that's your backup right there. Now, it operates on 6 AA batteries, and you can get those anywhere. So it's rated at, if you're playing it at half volume, it should last about 4 hours. Now, one more thing I want to do. I want to turn down the volume on each of these. All right, so let's just hear the keys with no instruments. That's the Casio. Here's the Roland. They both are pretty quiet as far as key actions go. But here's another thing that I noticed. If you really bang on the keys, which I don't recommend, there's like a knock to the Roland. Again, I don't recommend that, but that is another difference. So now I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the line outputs all together, and we're going to hook up a couple of condenser mics and see what the speakers sound like on each of these in an ordinary room setting. All right, so this isn't the perfect setting over here, obviously the lighting and the camera, but the whole thing, the whole purpose for this is to hear what these sound like acoustically through the speakers that are built in a typical room. And again, excuse the camera, that kind of stuff, but anyway, here's what they sound like acoustically. Let's start with the Roland and the Casio. And that might be a little too loud. All right, let's try that again. Roland, Casio. All right, Roland. Casio. So that was just a quick test here. I think you can pretty much tell what sounds like. So all right, so what did you think? Anyway, I hope this whole presentation has been helpful to you. Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.